My name is Audrey Simpkins. I'm from Holland, Michigan, and I'm a junior and I'm studying art education. I took art classes when I was in high school and I liked them a lot, and I took all the classes that we had, and then I came to college and didn't know I was going to do art, but didn't know what to do, and I missed taking classes, so then I got into it again. I guess if you mean like what kind of art do I like to do,
Sure.
I guess I would say I'm a painter, but I don't know because since I'm doing art education, we get to like dip our toes in all sorts of different things. So, when I was in high school, I took ceramics and metals and like mixed media. Here at State, they have you start with like 3D courses, and we take drawing. I'm just finishing up a figure modeling class, which is like modeling with clay and then fixing it in plaster. Like typography.
What's that?
Like typeface design,
Okay.
like fonts. Like these are kind of like lame because they're names that everybody knows, but I really like Vincent Van Gogh, Matisse, Monet. I got to go to London and Paris for spring break, and I like got familiar with an artist I'd never heard of before. And his name is German, so I don't really know how to say it, but his last name is Richter, and yeah, that's probably my favorite one. I don't know. I guess you just decide, but I think there's a lot of people that will make something and then take a break and then work on it and come back to it again. So I think it just depends. Like something might not ever be finished. Like you could always continue to work on something. I guess if you're gonna define it, you're just gonna say it's like expression, because you can't like say it's like physical, or you can't say it's digital or whatever. So I guess when somebody says it's art, I don't know. That's like kind of the most annoying question ever.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not like to you. Everybody asks that question. I'm not saying that it's annoying that you asked me it, but like I just think that it's kind of dumb. Like, well, like the art world is annoying in that way because people like gain like success and become famous based on like whoever decides, like whoever's in a position to decide. So if you're gonna sit, like there's probably a lot of like crazy people running around saying things, but you don't listen to everything everyone says. So it's someone who's like spotlighted, and like Marcel Duchamp like created the ready made because he had the opportunity to exhibit in a gallery. Like anybody could have done that, but they weren't in a gallery that was like recognized. I mean, it depends. Like if you're making art like to try to say something and do something, then it'd be content. But if you're making art to like, I don't know, like maybe if you want someone to buy your art, like if you want your art to be in like little galleries, and then like your grandparents, like older people buy them like fancy homes, like you'd want it to be well done so they think that it's pretty. So like it just, do you know what I mean? It like depends on why you're making art. The only time I've ever named a piece is when I've been forced to name it by a professor. And I feel like if you name something, then even before you see it, like if you heard someone talking about it or you read about it and you knew the name, then you go into it, like when you look at it, you'll be like already wired to think something about it without like making your own assumptions. And it will like give you a connotation about what the piece is about, and unless you want it to be 100% about that word that you name it, then I don't know why you would name it something. One was like a paint whatever you want painting, and we were supposed to kind of be like collaging elements. So like the background is like they're like striations, like blended striations of color, and the whole semester I was kind of just exploring color, and that was like my first attempt at it. So they're really really bright, and then there's like an overlay of like plants and flowers. And they were going to be black at first, but then they ended up being like this peach white color, and I think it was more successful because it's less distracting. And that some of them are like full, some of them are silhouettes. I think it turned out pretty well. It's kind of obnoxiously bright, but I was happy with it. And then the next piece is a portrait that I did of my mom, and we were doing, our project was to like mimic a contemporary artist, and my artist was, I'm sorry that I don't know how to pronounce people's names, but his name is something. His last name is Uglow. His last name's Uglow. He has like a really defined painting technique, and it's not really abstract, but it's like, I guess you should just look it up, but don't compare mine to it because I didn't do that good of a job. But so I was doing like an artist paint alike project, and he paints a lot of portraits. So I decided to do a portrait, and then if I'm gonna be like spending money and time on like making stuff, I want to like it.
Could you talk a little bit about the technique?
On just in general.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so on this painting of my mom, I guess that it was hard because I was trying to paint like another artist, and I've never seen that artist paint, but you just look at what they made. So like trying to figure out what his technique is really challenging. So it took me a really long time to do it. I guess I kind of like just started with the figure and then worked really hard to like create similar like skin tones and things like that. I mean, I probably painted it like 6 times, like painted over it and over and over it. And it's oil paint, all of these are, so the nice thing about it is it stays wet. So like you can continuously go back and work on it. The next painting is like a very abstract piece. It's actually of a still life, and a still life is like when you have an arrangement of objects set up and they want you to replicate it. But I was super sick of doing it and didn't want to do it anymore. And so then I just kind of like grasped some of the like forms and shapes, just like what we were talking about earlier, and like depicted them in a different way and tried to like still create the same sense of light and balance, and change the colors. They're not realistic colors. The next one is a painting that I did just for fun, actually. And it was after I went to the Tate Modern Museum in London and was just like inspired by some stuff that I saw there and wanted to try to recreate like that squeegee effect that we were talking about. I didn't have a squeegee, but I used like a piece of wood and like dragged it across. It doesn't really look that similar, but it turned out okay. And the next one is a painting look-alike. It's the same artist, Uglow. So I chose, this was in the fall, so I chose apples, and it's a similar color scheme to what he does, and besides portraiture, he also painted fruit, so that's why I did that one. And it's like a really thick like paint application. As far as like technique, it's not something that I was comfortable with doing, but I was like trying to achieve his like sense of depth with like paint application, so that's what that one is. And then the last one is my favorite one, probably besides my mom. And it was my painting final, and I'm really proud of it because I built the stretcher and stretched the canvas on it. So I made the canvas and like cut all the wood and nailed it all together and everything. And it's kind of like an abstracted like water scene, like water and sky. You can kind of tell if you look at it. You probably like realize now, like a sunset sort of. So that's what it is. And as far as like technique, it's like really light paint, like just tons of like mixing of colors and blending, like barely any paint. It's like spread super thin. So